Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Fathor Rasyid from English Department, Class G, 6th semester. Today I want to explain about current teaching methodology in listening. The first teaching methodology in listening is teaching listening comprehensions with bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach itself is which uses policy making based on input from students and is then compiled and realized by the teacher. The main approach to listening problem is psycholinguistic and statistical ones that help identify practical teaching, identify practical teaching principles, as well as describe this approach with findings on the relevant features and frequencies of English words and sentences and their linguistic features itself. These findings were discussed in terms of their application in developing listening skills down to the top and tested in the listening comprehensions experiment. And the second is teaching listening comprehensions with top-down approach. The listener used background knowledge of the subject, the situations or context, the form of text, and the language in top-down strategies. This prior experience triggers a collection of assumptions that aid the listener in deciphering what is being said and anticipating what will happen next. And here the definitions of listening strategies. Listening strategies itself are techniques or actions that provide directly to the comprehension or to the comprehensions and recall of listening input. Listening strategies can be classified by how the listener processes the input. The listener steps into background knowledge of the topic, the situations or context, the type of text, and the language. This background information activates a set of expectations that assist the listener to interpret what he has heard and anticipate what he will hear next. There are three types in listening strategies. The first types, these are listener-based. The steps to use the listener-based are listening for the major idea, predicting, drawing assumptions, and cutting. And the second types of listening strategies is text-based. The text-based, the listener depends on the language in the message, that is, the arrangement of words, sound, and grammar that creates meaning. The steps of use text-based are listening for specific information, recognizing cognates, and recognizing word order patterns. And the third types of listening strategies is the listener who follow the strategies they plan and evaluate their listening. And the steps are they plan by deciding which will be the best listening strategies in a particular situation. And they assess by determining whether they have achieved their learning comprehension goals. And the procedure of developing listening comprehensions competence, there are three steps to developing listening comprehensions competence. The first is Pre-listening stage implies equipping the students with preliminary instructions as to the text perceptions, identifying the subject matter of the text, overcoming difficulties that teacher trainees may encounter while receiving the incoming information. For example, checking the understanding of sentences containing polysemantic words, idioms, and tricky phrases explaining unknown grammatical structures used in the text, listening to and translating the isolated fragments of the text, and etc. And the next procedure is in while listening stage. Stage is the actual process of listening to the alien audio message. Here, either the whole text or separate blocks of it are listed to. The number of deliveries may vary, but in order to maintain students' interest in the message, the diversified exercises should be implemented. And the final is post listening stage is aimed at examining the understanding of the text. The exercise to check the comprehensions of the received information may incorporate three groups of assignments according to the level of their specification. Here, the system of exercises for developing listening comprehension competence. There are two steps to developing listening comprehension competence. The first is recognizing level, involves identifying words and phrases in their structural interrelationships, time sequences, logical and modifying terms, and redundant phrases. At the second selection level, the listener is drawing out from the communications the elements which seem to express the purposes of the speaker or those which suit his own purposes. And here the references that I take to arrange this material today: current teaching methodology in listening. That's all about current teaching methodology in listening. I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.